Iran is making a very strong move and a very wonderful threat to the US and to President Donald Trump. Iran is now placing a $10 million bounty on Baron Trump, and this is unimaginable. I will allow you to watch this video, but I want to let you know one thing. If Iran do something like that because they threatened Baron Trump, and if Iran try to do this and eventually achieve it, I want to assure you that Iran will never see it lightly because US will intervene. In fact, watch this video.
Overnight, a very disturbing new threat from Iran. State TV in Iran aired a video that appears to place a $10 million bounty on the life of Baron Trump, the president's youngest child. The video even shows locations where the 20-year-old is known to spend time. I don't want to even mention those locations. The Secret Service says it is aware of the threat, but won't comment for security reasons. Joining us now is Leon Panetta. He was the defense secretary under President Obama. He was also the CIA director and formerly a member of Congress. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for joining us. At any given time, the president and his family are among the best protected people in the world. But how concerning is this latest Iranian public threat and the apparent bounty on the life of 20-year-old Baron Trump?
Well, I think you have to take these kinds of threats very seriously, especially if they did it over Iranian TV. It's crazy for them to even try something like that, because that would probably result, without question, in an all-out war. And so I think the United States is going to have to take that threat seriously. But I also think Iran needs to be aware of the consequences of doing anything like that. It is definitely not in their interest.
Because the way that video on Iranian state TV aired, it seemed to suggest that perhaps a supporter of Iran, a supporter of terrorism in the United States, should go out and try to kill Baron Trump and then get a $10 million reward for doing so. Is that the way you understood it as well?
Wolf, the threats we've gotten from Iran are very similar. The word goes out that individuals here in the United States might be the kind of terrorists who might attempt that kind of assassination, either on the president or the first family, or others as well. That's the kind of intelligence we've gotten in terms of Iran's threats. And so it's for that reason that you have to take these kinds of threats very seriously and not assume that it's just propaganda. Iran, from my experience, makes these kinds of threats. You've got to be prepared to deal with it, because that kind of craziness can be a reality when it comes to what they do.
And they dramatically have to beef up security for Baron Trump right now. I assume you agree, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me also ask you, Mr. Secretary, about the current U.S. sanctions, the new sanctions on Iran, and the threat to punish countries that continue to do business with the Iranian regime. China is Iran's top export partner, and China is severely criticizing these latest new sanctions from the U.S. Is Washington headed for a collision course with Beijing?
Well, I think what's happening, Wolf, is that we've been in a stalemate in Iran. Both sides are running out of options as to what to do. The United States has tried military action that has not brought down the regime. It hasn't stopped them from firing missiles. It hasn't stopped them from closing the Straits of Hormuz. And on the nuclear issue, we're nowhere in terms of trying to decide who controls the enriched fuel and what happens in terms of some kind of inspection regime. None of that is anywhere. And so the United States is now trying an economic approach, D-Day, But on D-Day, when the United States landed, we had a lot of allies landing with us. That's not the case here on this economic D-Day. The reality is that China, nor any of the countries that Iran has traded with, are part of this approach. And for that reason, it becomes very hollow unless you can get other countries, particularly China, involved in making sure that we do everything to isolate Iran. So I do not see this as being a very successful move until they're able to get that kind of cooperation. And I don't see that coming from China in particular.
And on that specific issue, if China is not held to account, Mr. Secretary, will Iran's other major trading partners, such as India and Turkey, for example, be as likely to sever ties?
I think all of them are going to be very cautious before they take action here. Frankly, the United States, prior to making this kind of announcement, should have lined up these countries to support isolating Iran. They didn't do that. In the press conference yesterday, the secretary is kind of hopefully praying that these other countries will come in and support this initiative. That's not a good way to conduct business. You've got to lay that groundwork. You've got to build those allies into the package. They've got to be committed to doing this. Otherwise, as I said, you can say you're going to conduct, a D-Day approach on the economy, but the reality is nobody's going to show up, and that means that, frankly, we're going to continue right now in this forever war. That's the likely outcome of all of these actions that we're seeing now.
We just learned in the last few minutes that the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, secretly traveled to Moscow overnight to meet with top Russian officials. It comes as negotiations to try to end the war between Russia and Ukraine have stalled, and just after the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, announced a strategy to isolate Iran from the rest of the world. Would Russia, you think, support any of this?
Well, my experience is that the axis that involves Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran is very tight. They're all supporting one another. They've provided drones. They've provided weapons. They've provided fighters to one another. And so, I appreciate the fact that we're going to Russia, but the secretary didn't mention Russia, and he really didn't even mention China by name in terms of the kind of difficulties that we're going to run into unless we get their cooperation. I think it's a long shot. I think our adversaries are going to continue to work together, and I'm not sure we're going to make any progress going directly to Russia until the United States makes very clear that we are going to provide weapons to Ukraine to defend itself. If we send that message, they'll pay attention. But just to simply send the CIA director there on a hope and a prayer is not going to do it.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you heard everything they said concerning President Donald Trump. I just pray that Iran should never try something like this, because they are threatening the youngest son of President Donald Trump, of which if they try to do it, or if they achieve this, US will never leave Iran. They will do something that Iran will regret. Yes, because this is a very powerful threat. What do you have to say? I don't know your opinion. Drop it in the comment section. But I will advise that Iran should never do anything. The best is for them to have a peace deal with the US, so that peace will reign, and all this crisis, demolition, destruction will come to an end. That is my honest advice and my own idea. So subscribe for more. See you in the next one, and bye.